go. In the States today, 9 out of 10 forest fires are started by man. Take 3 elements to come together in order to take a fire to start and grow. I believe if you ask the rangers, I think it's 3 elements. If not, you need to go to Rangers. There's my advertisement there. The three elements are heat, fuel, and oxygen. The fire triangle is a simple way of understanding the factors of a fire. Each side of the triangle represents one of the 3 ingredients needed to have a fire. Obviously, oxygen, heat, and fuel, demonstrating the interdependence of these ingredients in creating and sustaining a big fire. When there's not enough heat generated to sustain the process, obviously, when the fuel's exhausted, removed, or isolated, or when oxygen supply is limited, then a side of the triangle is broken and the fire will die. I forgot to grab the clicker. Is that the clicker? No. Man, I'm sorry. I'm falling apart before I even start. Yeah, so, so why don't we start this off in prayer? So let's pray. Lord, I thank you for today. Lord, I know that sometimes everything kind of falls apart, but you got it completely and perfectly figured out. So Lord, I just give it all over to you. I pray that we will have an open eyes and open ears, and that we will learn something great from you. And everyone said, amen. So the statement is true. That's from Smokey the Bear, as he says, only you can prevent forest fires, right? We all know Smokey the Bear. He says, only you can prevent forest fires. So we know that statement is true. Just as a natural fire element takes 3 parts to sustain a fire, so does the fires we build, create, and release with our tongues. They can be just as destructive and permanent damaging as a natural fire. I want to make sure that this is working. So I want to talk to you today about only you can prevent a fire. Only you can prevent a fire. Because we are talking about preventing a fire with our tongue. It is so important for us because, the tongue is the one that we use the most in our physical body. It is always moving. For some of us, we're talk more than others. You can ask my wife, I'm always rambling on about something, whether it's sports or weather or golf or what sports or anything. I just love to talk, and sometimes I ramble on, and people have to say, okay, go on. But we need to be careful on how we say things. We learn at a young age that words hurt. We try to cover up these facts by trying to instill in our minds that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. The other thing we teach is I'm rubber, you're glue. Everything you say bounces off of me and sticks to you. Ha, ha, ha. Right? But we learn quickly that isn't true, right? We learn that words cut to our core. They hurt us. They burn. And just as we find out that fires have different elements or different phases of being burnt, so does our words. I found as I Googled it, I thought that there was only 3 degrees of burns. I realized that there's actually 6. And the degree, we have sunburn, so sometimes we have words that we just quickly say something, and then to cover it up, we say, just kidding, right? Have you ever said that? I work around teenagers all the time, and they're like, oh, that was horrible, just kidding. And so sometimes I'll find that, and I'll be like, that was great, just kidding. Or, go Patriots, just kidding. I'm not a Patriots fan. So, you have different things, right? We have second degree. That might be more red blistering, like it starts to boil, right? It takes more time to heal. We've been around those situations where someone will say something and it will start to get under our skin. It determines our senses, our feelings, our actions, and it takes a long time for us to get over it. We need to start putting aloe on it, right? We need to take care of that because it blisters. We have third degree, which destroys all layers of our skin. Do you have anyone that has constantly all your life told you negative things, told you things that you couldn't accomplish, that you're no good, that you can't happen? Sooner or later, that stuff starts to be burned deep inside, and it takes more than just putting aloe on it. It takes surgery. We know that the fourth and fifth and sixth, fourth degree is it takes away just not the skin, but it also damages the muscles. You can imagine that the fifth is it damages bones, and there's no chance of survival. There is things that we learn that words will destroy. They say that if you put a baby in a room by themselves and have no touch and talk negative about it, that sooner or later he or she is going to perish. Why? Because it is so important on words. I look at my daughter who's only 3 and just the ways that she likes to imitate us. We need to be careful on how we are doing it. When my wife was pregnant, right before she was pregnant, or right before she had Braden, she was waddling a lot, walking, and I used to call her that she looked like a duck. And sometimes I'd say, hey, look, there's the penguin, right? And I was joking, right? And I was sitting in there, and I watched her get up, and she waddled into the bathroom, and my daughter turns around and goes, hey, look, there goes the penguin. I'm like, oh, no! There goes my words. My words just taught something that was meant just for no harm, but instilled in her something different. She was laughing. She thought it was a joke, but I was teaching something completely different. And we need to be careful on our words this morning and as we go. In James, it says, for we all stumble in many ways, and if anyone does not stumble, what he says, he is a perfect man, and able to also bridle his whole body. If we put bits into the mouths of horses so they obey us, we guide their whole bodies as well. Look at the ships also. They are large and they are driven by strong winds. They are guided by very small rudder wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How great a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire. The tongue is a fire, the world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, sustaining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and set on fire by hell. For every kind of beast and bird and reptile and sea creature can be tamed and has been tamed by mankind, but no human being can tame the tongue. It is restless evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless the Lord our Father, and with it we curse people who are made in all different things. But we are going to talk about these 6 different things, but number 1 is a proud look. But before we get into it, has anyone ever bullied anyone when you were a kid? Bullied. Have you bullied someone? All right. Okay. Have you ever been bullied? Okay, so everyone has either been on one side or the other, and sometimes both, that we've been bullied or we've bullied others, right? I've always used my brother as an example. I always bullied him. He's 4 years younger than I am. I was like, man, I'm always bullying him, always picking on him until he got a little bit smarter than I did, and then I had a hard time, right? But bullying is unwanted, aggressive behavior that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. The behavior is repeated or has a potential to be repeated over time. We know that we are actually starting to, in our nation, persecute is the other, prosecute. I have ADD in my head tonight. I know what I'm trying to say, but it's not coming out right. But we prosecute those that bully. And the types of bullying, we have verbal bullying, teasing, name-calling, taunting. We have social bullying, those that are sometimes leaving someone out on purpose, telling other children not to be friends or telling other people not to be friends, spreading rumors about someone, embarrassing someone in public. We have physical bullying, where there's people that are actually hitting, kicking, spitting, tripping, pushing, taking or breaking someone's things, making mean or rude hand gestures. We have all different types. And the most one that is popular these days is social bullying. Facebook and Twitter has become this platform where people are taking it and saying, can you believe that this person is, and it's going all over the nation. It's going all over the world, and it is destroying people's reputation. I think it's funny of how not funny, but I think it's interesting on how it takes a lifetime to build our reputation to where we want it, but it only takes a minute to ruin it all. And we have those platforms like Facebook and Twitter, and we need to be so careful. So we have different scriptures that we could talk about, but I want to quickly say that in Proverbs 6:16 through 19, it says, these 6 things the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are abomination to him: a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to do evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among the brethren. We can look at a proud look. I am looking good this morning. I got up this morning, I went to the mirror, and I went, oh man, Brian, you're hot. I'm like, wow, no, I'm awesome. And then I looked in the mirror, my spiritual mirror, and I said, God, I know that, oh, never mind, there's nothing that I need to take care of in my life this morning because I got it all figured out. I'm a pastor at New Life Church. I'm under Pastor Ken, so he's got me all gotten good, and I'm awesome, and I'm set. Oh! And exactly, we have a proudness, right? But it says that we can have confidence. Well, being like, I'm a Yankees fan, so we have the confidence that we're always going to get to the playoffs. But we could have that prideness that we think we're always going to win a championship, which it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Derek Jeter just hurt himself. But yeah. But anyway, it's sports, right? It's meaningless, utterly meaningless. Anyway. But our proud look. Have you ever gone around and gone past somebody and their look you just knew just by their look that they thought that they were just the cat's meow. And on top of that, by their look, they thought that they were so much better than you were. Just the way they looked at you, they were like, you could tell like, if I push this person the wrong way, they think they're so much higher. But we as Christians, do we give a proud look sometimes? Do we walk around and say, I got the answer. I know that I'm going to heaven. Do we need to sometimes humble ourselves, and we need to make sure that we're not walking around and being prideful? It says, but he gives more grace. Therefore, he says, God resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. We need to be so careful about letting our pride speak or be allowed in our life. We need to learn to practice humbleness. Instead of getting into the mirror every morning and saying, ooh, I look good. We need to say, Lord, what are some things that I can do or that you could do through me to change, to help me to keep humble? How can I be your hands and feet, that I can represent you and not me, right? We have a prayer that we should say that less of me and more of you. When they see me, they should see Jesus, right? So these are some of the things that sometimes our proud look would get in the way of them seeing Jesus Christ in our life. We need to be so careful on what we do. We have a lying tongue. As I just said, the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl. Lying tongue. I said the Yankees. Sorry. The lying tongue. I'm like, really if I have hate mail tomorrow, if you understand why I'm not here, I know why, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not a Patriots fan, but just kidding. There's just kidding. See, you know what happens? Look, there's a great example. But Now I'm like, where do I go from there, right? But we all have ways that we need to grow. And we say things that we don't always mean, and we say in ways that we should be better and taken care of in our own ways. And the best ways that we need to learn to be slow to speak and quick to listen. Amen? But we have a lying tongue, and I can tell you that this lying tongue can get you in all kinds of trouble. I will let you know that when I was little, I had a problem with lying. It was not just a little lies, it was every word out of my mouth was a lie. And you know, with a liar, the hardest thing is, with a liar, is learning to tell the truth. On top of that, it's also learning to remember what you're lying about, because your stories continually to get messed up. But we need to be careful that God says that He hates a lying tongue. He hates those that are not telling the truth about things. We need to be so careful that our words are being representation of who God is, right? We need to work on day in and day out that we are stating truth. I've learned in time and past that when we get into a conversation and we say things, that I learned in communication last week that there's two types that we learn of what actually is being said and a communication that is going on in our head. And we need to be continually keeping that separate and saying what was really said and what was it that I want to say. Right? I used to get into problems where I'd be like, the first time someone said something, and I would tell the real part, and then I would say, well, it sounds better if I go, well, someone was really irritating me, and I said to them, step back, right? And I thought that in my head, but I never said it. Right? We're starting to add to it. People that add to it, we usually have a low self-esteem. I had a big-time low self-esteem. I thought as I had to make those words better than what they were, the stories better than they were, because I was boring. I thought my life wasn't fun. I thought I had to impress people. We got to be so careful about our lying tongue. It says, do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another. When we are deceiving one another, we're not building up the kingdom of heaven. It also says, he who works deceit shall not dwell within the house, but he who tells lies shall not continue in presence. We got to be so careful on our words and how we are representing our behavior. It also says in Psalms, it says, who is the man who desires life and loves many days, and he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. We need to be so careful that we keep our eyes and keep our words from telling lies. We have the third. It says hands that shed innocent blood. Our words can so easily ruin someone else's reputation. God hates those who speak wrong of others. So many times we are so quick to share gossip with someone else. Our society is engulfed with gossip. Just watch the nightly news. We strive on it. We do not need to be part of that fire. Don't help the words of fire to spread to others. There's two ways to shed blood, on purpose and by accident, but both are wrong. And when this situation occurs, do a couple things. When you hear someone that says, I shouldn't tell you this, but you should be strong enough to say, I'm done. I don't want to hear it. Boom, walk away. But if you're not that strong and you hear that kind of stuff, there's some things that we need to do to prevent it from going on. Don't Facebook about it. Don't Twitter about it. Don't answer a phone call about it. Don't let someone else, well, just text me. Don't text me. Don't call me. Because otherwise we start spreading it and passing and shedding innocent blood because we don't know all the facts of what is happening, right? The second thing that we need to do is when someone hurts us, right? When someone hurts us in our words, we don't need to be shedding innocent blood to someone else. So we know that by not putting on Facebook. We also say, don't waste time. Make it right as soon as possible. The longer you wait, it gives the opportunity for your mind to fill in blanks and add to the story. When someone does something wrong to you, we should what? We should be able to go to them and confront them and do it in a lovely way and a godly way and sharing those things that will end it there. And third, we need to be careful. It says, give it over to God and leave it there. I used to be able to tell others, don't waste time, make it as soon as possible. I have no problem doing that. I like to be confrontational, go right into someone and stating that. But I have a hard time sometimes at giving it over to God and leaving it there. I don't know about you, but sometimes when someone says something wrong about us, we got to say, Lord, I don't want to continue to do something that's wrong, and I don't want to shed innocent blood. And Lord, I give it down at your feet. Lord, help me to be humble. Help me to set it down at the altar, and help me to walk away, and let me see them in the way that you see them. And that is very hard to do, but that is the way that we're supposed to act. It says we also have a heart that devises wicked plans. Getting back at those who have wronged you. Have you ever tried to want to get back at someone who wronged you? Don't raise your hand. You don't have to. But you know what? In my family, it was a pastime. Our neighbors moved in from New York City. Believe it or not, I lived in West Milford, New Jersey. It is, if you look on the map, it's 95% of it's state property. We have bears in our backyard. New Jersey does have some forests. And we have one traffic light in New Jersey, to give you a little bit idea. One traffic light in our town, West Milford. And we, every fall, turn that traffic light off and turn it back on and call it the Festival of Lights. So we're a little bit of a redneck town, and there's one grocery store and one movie theater, and that's about it. And these neighbors came in from New York City, and the first thing they did was they cut down all their trees in their backyard and set up a pool and put up a fence. And we weren't used to that kind of environment. Everybody was friends with the little neighborhood that we were in. And so what he used to do was that when leaves or trees, branches would fall, they're not from his trees because he had none. So he would grab them and he would throw them over the fence. And we would be sitting in the backyard. Sometimes he'd hit us. And when the fall came, he did us a favor. He would take his leaf blower out and he would leaf blow it all to our side of the yard, blow it underneath the fence or down and around and leave this huge pile for us. So all we had to do was pick it up and take care of the mess, right? Because he didn't have any leaves in the backyard. So you can imagine what we would do around the table of think of ways that we could get back at him. Have you ever done that? Where you're like, man, this person has hurt me. This person has done something wrong to me. And you come up with all these great evil plans to get back at them. I thought about, spraying he had this beautiful lawn. I thought about, throwing stuff over that would ruin his lawn. We thought of all kinds of things. And we even, one year when he came out and started blowing leaves, we went out one year and started blowing leaves back, right? And we're like, they're not ours. Yes, they are. No! But it's like this thing that we want to shed and we want to go back and forth and we want to devise evil plans wicked plans because he has done something wrong against us. We leave on a Sunday and we come back and our trees would be cut where he thought the line of his property was, the bushes and things. He was so wicked in those aspects. And there was ways that we sat there and we would come up with all kinds of plans. And one night my dad said to me, we're sitting around the table and he says, that's it. And I'm like, sweet, I'm going to go get the black camo. I'm going to get the camo. We're out there. We're going to beat this guy up or something. And he goes, nope, we're going to go get the rakes. And tonight it's fall. He says, tonight we're going to go out and we're going to rake his yard. And we're going to rake it all up and we're going to make it nice and clean. and we're not going to say anything. And I said, that ain't fun. What are you talking about? Come on, can we do some spray paint, do something? Nope, we're just going to go and we're going to fix the problem. And we went out in the middle of the night, in the dark, and we cleaned his whole yard. And that next morning, we said nothing to him. We walked away. A week later, he came up and he said, hey, when are you going to come over and rake my lawn again? It looked really good. But you know what? We started to solve a problem. We decided in our lives that we weren't going to come up with wicked plans. We were constantly, every time we saw him, we thought that he was doing something evil against us. And it was our own mind playing with our heads because he didn't really have a bad thing in his life. He really thought that he was okay of doing those things. But we had to change our thinking. We had to change and say, look, we're not going to let him bother me. We're not going to turn around and do tooth for tooth or hand for hand, right? Which we wanted to do. My grandfather, I'll say this quickly. My grandfather had a problem with his neighbor, and he had all kinds of weeds. My grandfather had weeds in his yard, and the guy next door didn't. And my grandfather's neighbor, he hired somebody to come and take his whole yard and put in all new sod and send my grandfather the bill. And my grandfather refused the bill, and they took it all up. So how my grandfather answered it with it is that he decided to plant his whole yard with dandelions. And then he took fans and put them out in the backyard to blow the other direction, right? We have two different types of people. We have those that are always trying to spread wickedness, right? Even though that was kind of funny. But this is not right. And he sat there and devised ways that he could. And what ended up happening was there was this war back and forth. He didn't want to cut his lawn, so he decided, this guy brought him to court, brought him to town. My grandfather ended up just paving his whole backyard and painting it green. And so he didn't have to do anything. But that has nothing to do with where we're going. But we need to have a place where our heart doesn't devise wicked plans. Jesus Christ of his life, of how he was on this earth, he didn't sit there with his disciples and devise wicked plans that he was going to ruin the Pharisees and ruin the people that hated him. No, what did he do? He blessed those. He blessed those that cursed them. He reached out to them. He continued to heal them, even though that he knew that they were continuing to go against us. Us as Christians, we need to be continuing to give the love of God. And we need to be continuing to use our mouths to fill the right joy and peace into their lives instead of taking the curses back and forth. We also have feet that are swift and running doing evil. I think we've already talked about this, but we can talk about it real quick again. Hey, did you hear about so-and-so? We need to be so careful that we're not running and taking our gossip and going somewhere else with it. We need to stop it there. We need to be the big man and the big woman and stop it right there and say we are adults and we are not going to let it continue. I'm going to let my Christian walk and my testimony stand and let them know who I live for. And we also have false witnesses and sowing discord. We look at the spies into the promised land. They sowed words of doubt, lies, unbelief, and they caused discord among the brethren. Through their testimony, there was consequences for the whole tribe. We need to be careful. That I know that I learned that, God says that we need to love all. But he never says we have to like them all. Okay? God says we need to love everyone. But it doesn't mean that we have to like everybody. But we need to be careful on how we are expressing and how we are sharing our faith to others. It doesn't mean when I got saved that I had to love everyone, that I had to hang out with everyone, that I had to be friendly to everybody, that I had to be someone that enjoyed everyone's company. That isn't true. We put up with people, right? We don't have to like them. Just like sinners, we have to love sinners, but we don't have to like the sin that they're a part of. There's a lot of things in our lives that we don't like of others, but we still are need to be called to love them. We can look past those things. In closing this morning, my dad and mom were separated at my age of 16. My dad and I, 2 days after Christmas, my dad had a mental breakdown, and you guys can't see me if I do that. But my dad had a mental breakdown, and my dad and I got into a fist fight. And not just a little fist fight. My dad lost it to the point where my mom jumped in the middle, and my dad tried to beat her to get to me. And we got separated. My dad went down to go to his truck, and I went downstairs to get the baseball bat because I was going to kill him. And I had every intention that I was going to kill him. And I chased him down the street, and we started this relationship going down the wrong path. And for a year and a half, my parents were separated and working on those tongues of fire, where one would say one thing and another one say another, and it would go back and forth. And I worked at this Bible conference down at the Long Beach Island, and I was working there, and my dad came down and visited me, and he said that night, he came to me onto the dock, where was a beautiful scene right on the dock, on the bay, looking at the sunset. He looked right at me, and he says, "Brian," he says, "to get on with my life, I have to realize that I don't have a son, I don't have a wife, and that I wish that you guys were never born." And I got up and I pushed him and I ran. And it was hard to hear those things. He was hurting, I was hurting, and there were situations that were going on in our lives. There might have been things that he didn't necessarily mean, but he didn't know how to express them. And I ran. I took off. I lived in a dorm with a bunch of guys, and this buddy of mine, he saw me running, and I was crying, and I was trying so hard as being a 17, 18-year-old not to show tears. Men don't cry, right? Well, that's a lie. Men should cry, but I was trying so hard not to show my tears, and all I wanted to do was just go into my bed and just hide. And he stopped me, almost tackled me, and he says, "What's going on?" I said, "My dad just told me that he wished that I was never alive." And he said, "You know what? You're not going to allow that to happen." He says, "You're going to bless him." And I said, "No, I'm not. He's a jerk." And he says, "No, I'm not going to allow you to do those things. You are going to stop what you're doing, and that you're going to pray for him. And you're going to pray that God will do great things in his life." And I said, "There's no way. You're crazy, man." And he held a hold of me, and he prayed. And in his prayer, he said, "Lord, I pray that you would capture his heart, and that he would realize what he's done, and that he would stay up all night and not get a wink of sleep." And I said, "Great, that's great." And I went, and I said, "There's a lot more things that I could say. Let's go back to spreading wicked plans, right?" And I went to bed, and I went to sleep. Next morning, I got up to go do my job at 6 in the morning, and I walked down, and there was my dad on the porch with my buddy. And my buddy says, "Somebody wants to talk to you." And I said, "Well, that somebody I don't want to talk to that somebody." And he said, "Well, I think you really need to sit down and listen to him, because he was up all night, because God wouldn't let him to sleep." You see, it doesn't always work out that way. But when we decide that we're going to stop the evilness, God is able to work faster in the midst of those things. My dad and I have an awesome relationship right now. And I could not have planned that in any other way. And I will tell you that I know this message was kind of up and around and all over the place, but I will tell you this, that we need to be so careful with the way that our words are used, because it can grow, it can build life, and it can tear down life. We can give life, like I said, and we can destroy someone. And we got to be careful of the words of lies, the words of deceit that we are giving. We got to be careful of shedding innocent blood, because we're not in charge of them. They can still have a great life. We don't know the way that we're impacting into their lives. And on top of that, we need to learn that right when it happens, we need to stop. And we need to give it over to the one that is control of all situations. Why don't we close in prayer this morning? Lord, I thank you for who you are. Lord, I know that as I was preparing this message, there is things in my life that I need to work on, and these things that you say that you dislike or hate, and some that you absolutely feel is an abomination. And Lord, I pray that you would help us through the course of the week and in the course of our month, that you would help us to work on our actions and our words, that we would be very careful on how we say it and when we say it. Lord, I pray that you would help us to be more like you. Lord, that you would help us to not send evil words to someone else, but they would stop and that they would just be of words of blessing. Lord, I thank you and praise you for what you're going to do in our lives. And until we meet again, in Jesus' name, amen.